Welcome back to the Dynamic Life Cycles podcast. There are bike families, and then there is the Jamieson family. 5 kids, a house that somehow balanced chaos and calm, and a garage stacked with vintage BMX, mountain bikes, cruisers, plus an old hot rod, and a 60s V-dub bus, just for good measure. Out of the 5, 2 all went in on bikes, Nash and Elliot. Elliot, who walked away from a serious junior hockey path to bet on 2 wheels, and Nash carving out his own identity in the sport where the Jamieson name already carries weight. And in the centre of all of that is JJ, a rider who can race anything, a product mind trusted across the industry, and a dad known for being calm, realistic, and steady when it matters. This isn't just all about racing. It's about a family, influence, feel versus data, and what kind of legacy you build when you put people first. This story is about the Jamiesons. I hope you enjoy the listen. All right, boys, how are we all?
Good. How are you?
Yeah, great. It's been a pretty good week. Quite sunny out there this week.
Yeah, definitely. It feels like a better February than a lot of them, that's for sure, for riding.
Yeah.
So, we're all doing well. Nash and I last weekend were riding a ton, and I know, you guys were riding a bunch as well, and it's good. Yeah, the season's kind of ramping up now, so
yeah,
for it.
Feels like an early season.
Definitely. Yeah. I don't think, most winters we have, at least a few days or like a week or two, that's pretty mixed, or where the trails will be shut down, but this week it's just being full, or this off-season is just being full of gas.
It's been pretty gnarly. So I wanted to get you guys in. I feel like your story, the family story, really resonated with myself, and I'm gonna say probably a lot of people that are listening as well, in the sense that I grew up with 2 other brothers, dad that raced, mum that was always at the races. I feel like your family vibe and where you guys are going through, and right now, you're getting into the factory side of things and stuff like that, and it's kind of a cool story, and sort of wanted to dive into that because from what I understand, it hasn't really been overly told. Obviously you guys have all sort of talked about things individually, but all get you together and have a bit of a chat. So JJ, tell me way back when that started, because you've been with Norco 36 odd years.
I think I'll hit 37 in November this year.
Oh wow, that's
pretty nuts.
That's insane. And then where did it start for you before that?
Funny thing is, that goes way back, because when I was a little kid, I went to my grandparents' house and pulled this old bike out of the shed and started tearing it apart. And as a kid in our neighborhood, when I was pretty young, I was always kind of messing around with bikes, checking out other people's bikes, putting taped on crossbars on our high-rise bikes to make them look like a motocross bike,
Mm-hmm.
And that was way back when I was probably 10 or 11. And then I think I got my first BMX in 1979, so I would have been 11, I guess. And it was a Norco that I still have, actually.
Oh, wow.
So that was kind of a game changer because BMX was new. The high-rise bikes were kind of, banana seats. They were kind of on the way out. There was a short stint of those motocross kind of gas tank bikes.
Yeah.
With shocks. But the BMX was it was the one, and I saw a kid in our neighborhood rolling one. This guy, Drew Wyden, he was a hockey player that I knew from hockey. And when I saw that bike, I was had tough wheels. It was it was pretty rad, and I'm I have to buy that bike, but I don't think my parents are going to let me. So I was sort of working this deal where if I could save up a bunch of money and buy that bike, and I'd say from that chance to get rolling on a BMX, I was on it, and I really never looked back. I remember later on being older, and I'd race BMX through my teens and stuff, but I remember being worried as a 16-year-old when my friends were getting cars, girlfriends, jobs. I'm what am I going to do? BMX, it's starting to change. We were starting to get worried that something was going to happen, that we weren't going to be able to ride, So anyway, yeah. But a lot of that through that window, I just rode BMX every day. We'd leave the house in the morning and come home for dinner and then go out again and ride. Or if we were at someone's house, we were working on bikes, we were building ramps, we were digging jumps. And it was a perfect spot to do that because it was Brookswood, which is in Langley. And there was like all these new suburbs on one side. There's a fresh BMX track, but there was also like a lot of farms and stuff. So you could just start digging and building. And so across the street from my parents, there's a big turkey farm with like 40 acres. So we used the barns inside to build ramps because one barn was empty, had these pigs at the back and an old fire truck in there. But we had 2 quarter pipes, a starting gate, a couple trick ramps.
Oh, wow.
So that was like you'd flick on the lights in the winter and like nights like this, put the ghetto blaster out and just ride in there. But in the day, like in the summer, we just dig jumps. And I could see all the kids from my front where I'd have breakfast. They'd be riding in this, we called it the bush track, or they called it Jamieson's track or whatever. Because I did most of the digging there, but it was just like a random just jump. So we just hang out there every day. I'm probably talking too much already.
No, that's awesome.
The boys are looking at you, so it's all good.
Good old history. Good. So but I mean, I was a bike kid, and then I thought I needed to get a real job. So I ended up going to university and college, finished that, and I started working at a skateboard warehouse distribution place where they're doing skateboards and snowboards, and I kind of got into that. BMX was kind of dying in the late 80s a bit. So I was a bit unsure, but I kind of liked the skateboarding, snowboarding angle and surfing. And so got the job there, but then I got a chance to go get a degree. And when I got home from that, it was like 80, I guess mid 89. And I applied at Norco. My mom was like, you need a job and you like bikes. Like, why don't you try Norco? And I just phoned up and I started working in the warehouse. And I had a degree in business after that.
Okay.
A few years of school. So it kind of got me in. But yeah, I just started working in the warehouse.
Who was running Norco back then? Like, obviously Bert was obviously heavily involved, but who were you talking with?
Well, first to get in, I just phoned the warehouse manager who was at the time Kerry Denegre. He hired me as a picker. I started driving a machine. But when I got the job upstairs, I was only in the warehouse for a short time, maybe 4 or 5, 6 months. And I saw this opportunity upstairs, and it was basically a secretarial position. I had the lady that drove the forklift phone upstairs, and the lady up there goes, oh, I don't think you want this job. Like, it's more clerical typing and stuff. I'm like, well, I'll learn how to type. That's cool. So I took a typing course, and they hired me upstairs. And it was kind of funny because I went upstairs, and the head person in bike division his name was Jim Harmon. And all in his office, he had old BMX pictures because his son raced BMX. And I kind of knew him. He was younger. But all the other racers on the Norco team, I was kind of friends with. So we kind of connected really well. So when I moved upstairs, they were like, okay, you can be the secretary for a while, but you can also help with like QC, tech, just things that Dave and Pete at the time didn't have time for. So that kind of got me into the bike division in a bit of a way. But yeah, for the first few years, I went for lunch with the secretaries every day. I just did back then it was faxes and just filing and organizing and stuff. So I kind of started in the warehouse. Then I started doing the office stuff. And then I was kind of like a junior buyer at that point. So yeah, literally, that's gone quite far back now.
Literally from the bottom of Norco all the way up.
And I was younger than Elliot. Like, I was only 21 when I started. So, by the time I was his age, I was just starting to go to Asia a bit. I think 92, I went to Asia the first time to go visit the factories and stuff. So that was a bit of an eye-opener.
Yeah. I don't even know where to go from that, to be honest.
So that's a little bit of history in that. But like I say, I was just a BMX kid, and at that point, that was my life, was just riding BMX bikes every day. Yeah. And the parents weren't involved much. Like, my mom would take me to the odd race, but she wasn't into it. My dad really didn't like racing. I played hockey in the winter, and he kind of enjoyed watching hockey. Yeah. But I think he was really nervous about racing, and he didn't really support it, or I don't think he ever came to a race. So most of the local races, I just rode my bike to, like, you just rode there and rode home, and the track wasn't that far away. But so that was, I think I probably would have got either more into it if my parents were into it, or I maybe would have done less of it, because all of a sudden, maybe the overbearing parent would have pushed me the other way, So who knows? But at that point in time, Langley was a hotbed for BMX, and it was really cool because so many kids were into it. It was just the funnest, just, wherever you're lake jumping one weekend, you're riding ramps, you're riding track, you're riding whatever, you're on a BMX trying to figure it out, and it was kind of a new sport.
Yeah. So where did the boys come into this? Obviously, like, how old are you now, Elliot?
I'm 24 now.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's like early 2000s. When Elliot was born, and then you've got 4 others as well in that time frame, and then obviously with Nash as well. Where and how did all that come, and where did take it from there a little bit?
Then I think during that window of time, like I was a bit older when we had kids. I was 32. So I'd had a window of, lots of riding as non-parent. So once we had kids, it was a little bit of a change of lifestyle because you're not going on road trips every weekend. But we tried to keep that going and just do what we did with the kids. So it meant, like, I think we went to California a month after you were born and just kind of tried to roll with it. We went to Hawaii that winter to go surfing a bit and hang out. But also just kind of not really ever push the kids, but just keep them around bikes where you always had the chance, like, hey, we'll ride. How about riding? Or how about this or that? Like, I remember through a lot of the years when Elliot was a little bit older, but we'd be loading up like 6 or 7 bikes on the van every day and just going up to the dirt jumps. I mean, White Rock's not the greatest place to ride, but the trails are actually kind of fun for kids, There's some trails, there's some jumps. So anyway.
Even like to jump in, I feel like even going back to when, I don't know, I was really young, like you'd bring home run bike prototypes for us to like jump around on. And we'd be like snapping wooden run bikes from just like wheelie dropping off of like the curbs. And I feel like we were just always around bikes, and that sort of whole, that just kind of like inspired us to, I guess, follow in our dad's footsteps and like fall in love with the sport a bit, but not love at first sight.
No, there was some stress. Like the kids, I remember that ride out in Abbotsford where you got your butt wet and you never thought you'd never ride a bike again. Yeah. We're trying to get you to ride over a little bridge and you just face plant and you're like screaming. I'm like, oh man, like this kid's not stoked.
Yeah. No, totally. I think when I was young, well, and Nash too. Like Nash, you weren't super into biking. Like,
there was so much complaining.
Yeah,
so much complaining.
But you look back, you guys had fun too. Like Jonas, our other son, who's 19 now. I mean, you guys would just hang out at the dirt jumps on run bikes and just goof around for hours. Yeah,
I don't think we even realized like how much time. Well, I guess for me, I raced a lot of BMX growing up when I was young, but I don't think we even realized how much time we spent on bikes. Like till we look back now and are like, whoa, we actually. Didn't think, like, in those ages you don't feel like you're doing it, but like every weekend we would go to the BMX track, and maybe that's like jumping forward a little bit, but like as soon as, I don't even know how old I was when you started taking this BMX track, like basically.
Well, you got the national #1 title when you were, I think, 6 or 7 for BMX, and Elliot got it for a 5-year-old.
Yeah. So
that was kind of like, you guys were pretty little, but that was just because we were hanging out at the track a lot at that point because we lived closer to the track, and you guys were putting in lots of time doing local races and stuff.
Totally. But I think, you never really pushed us to get into mountain biking, especially not racing. Like that all really came from us. And I think for me, like I got into biking through my hockey friends. And like at a certain point, a few of my buddies that I grew up playing hockey with, we would, after hockey, we'd all grab our dirt jumpers and just go to the dirt jumps in White Rock where we grew up, and we'd just ride those for hours. And then at a certain point, it became like, whoa, we like riding bikes way more than we want to play hockey. And some injuries in hockey and different things like kind of pushed me towards then mountain biking more seriously. But like that kind of started from you, Dad, taking me on like Tuesday night rides with like a bunch of his buddies. And there wasn't a lot of, I don't know, I feel like we didn't grow up at somewhere like Squamish or Whistler where there's a lot of other kids our age like on bikes too. So it was, for me, it was really just riding with my dad and his buddies. And then I think for Nash, it was obviously now with our relationship riding, it's like we're going riding all the time together, which is pretty cool. So
the time when you got the free Whistler bike camp thing.
Oh yeah,
he was kind of finishing grade 6, going into grade 7, I think. And there was this person that was our Russian distributor, and his son got injured. So I got a call from Skip, the old sales manager, and he goes, "Hey, you think Elliot would want to go to Whistler to a bike camp?" And I'm like, "Probably." He's been dirt jumping a bunch. He hadn't really ridden a downhill bike much.
Never, yeah.
But you went up for the week, and I remember that I was like, holy, this is scary, because we got a call, and it sounded like your room was like a full-on party.
It was Camp of Champions when they used to run it. It was similar to like summer gravity camps where, there was coaches, a crew of us, and we all got like lodging in Whistler. It was like kid's dream, honestly.
Yeah,
it was insane. And it's something totally, and it was something that I don't know, we wouldn't have like spent the money for. Like it was super expensive, and it just happened that it was free because of the injury. So yeah, my buddy and I ended up going up there, and I remember at the end of the week I got the most improved rider because I came in having never ridden a downhill bike before, really like that much. Yeah, no bike parks or anything, and then by the end we were riding like Dirt Merchant and A-Line like every lap, just having so much fun, you know. And I think that definitely sparked my like more racing side of being like, oh, this could be something like, yeah.
And even for Nash, like I think a couple of years ago, you were like a young kid, but he'd go up and ride with Elliot, and he'd be like, oh, I just rode with Connor Fearon and all these guys. Yeah. Like that was a cool like chance for him to just be able to ride with older riders, you know, that were pretty friendly and cool, but not so much just kids' age, you know.
How is that for you two boys? Like, obviously, with JJ being around so many pro riders, and then, like, obviously now you're sort of starting to link in with a lot of those riders. Like, how is that growing up and just knowing and seeing them and hanging out with them? Almost like your idols, I'm guessing, at some point. How is that?
Totally.
Oh, yeah, I don't even know. I mean, I watch, like, YouTube videos, and I just see them kind of around at the races, like Crankworks and World Cups, but then when you're kind of with them, you just kind of realize they're just kind of like what Elliot is. Like, my older brother's a pro, so you kind of just notice they're just all, like, chill, and they're nice, and you just dudes. Or end up riding with them, so yeah. It's not really, like, for me, it's not really as much of an idol anymore, because, so it's just kind of like you spend time with them, and it's sick.
Yeah, totally. I feel like maybe for me it was a little bit different, because I was the oldest. I didn't have that, that, like, almost exposure. Mental. Yeah, so I think for me, I definitely more so, like, put professional riders growing up on like a pedestal of like they're like, you know what I mean? I really looked up to like Sam Hill, Sam Blankensop, who ended up being teammates with Stevie Smith. Those are kind of like my main guys I looked up to, and a lot of that was, I think, just put them on the pedestal because there was no one, you know. And I guess I grew up a little bit riding with, I met some pro athletes like Jay Hoots and Ryan Leach, some like Norco Factory Team riders, but I kind of grew up riding a little bit before the Norco Factory Team and the, you know, form it is now, where it's like a high level, like or it was multidisciplinary, now focused on downhill, but it was kind of before that. So I think it was 2014 when the Norco Factory Racing got launched, which was like Blanky and Henry Fitzgerald and a few other riders, and so that was insane for me to look up to those guys. I'm just really thinking back as like you guys are talking, and it's like I remember the same thing, like growing up and racing moto and things like that, and seeing the pros at the local track, and then you get chatting with them, and then your old man starts chatting with their dads, and all of a sudden you're practicing with them, and it's like, it's pretty wild when all of a sudden people that you see on TV or YouTube or whatever are now all of a sudden just like hanging out in your living room, and it's like, pretty sick. Yeah, 100%. One thing I wanted to go back to, and I had a bit of a question on is, from what I understand, you're quite a high-level hockey player in the junior ranks. What was the big turning factor for that? You just mentioned injuries and enjoying biking more, but at what point did you make that full switch? How did that go down? Yeah, totally. I think, I honestly, it's funny because I think growing up, you know, my parents never really pushed me towards playing hockey. Like my dad, as he said, grew up playing hockey as well, but I was just started watching hockey on TV, and I wanted to play the sport so much. So then I feel like you guys were reluctant to like even let me at the start. Like, I was kind of begging to play it. So I really wanted to play hockey, and honestly loved it. That was my first dream, was to be a professional hockey player. I think like a lot of Canadian kids, it's like the NHL is such a big thing here. And I loved it. I feel like it taught me so many things of like being part of a team and like learning to work with coaches and training and like fitness and everything like that. But at a certain point, I think I had started riding bikes a little bit more, but very like casually, like not really racing seriously or competitively in any way. And I was really pushing hockey, playing rep hockey at a high level for like the Minor Hockey Association, and kind of like trying to figure out what that path would be like into the next steps. But then biking honestly kind of just took over. And I remember a pivotal kind of turning point was we were in like a spring hockey tournament, and we were destroying this team from down south in Portland. And anyway, I like went to shoot the puck into the other team's zone and ended up like hitting their defenseman like pretty hard on the shin pad kind of, and it went out of play, and the ref like blew the whistle down. And I turned around to turn back to the bench to change, and the kid just like cross-checked me from behind after the whistling of the boards, and I was completely unexpected, and it like broke my wrist, my arm, and I ended up being like, I was more disappointed to have the time off the bike than like missing with my teammates and everything. And so that was a big like eye opener of like, whoa, like, okay, this is my interests have really like shifted. And then I think like in retrospect too, I definitely enjoy pursuing like individual sport. Not that like obviously with a team there, or with mountain biking, there is still a team aspect, but I felt like with mountain bike racing, especially when I started racing cross country, it was like how much effort and like passion I have for it kind of directly would translate to results, especially at a young age, versus with hockey, it was like I could put so much work in, but obviously it's, you know, there's 20 guys on a team, and if everyone's not putting that level of work in, then it's you're not gonna like win and make those jumps. So
also where we live, there's a lot of dads that were all friends in like the club of hockey style, so
definitely
there was a little bit of a bias where we weren't as friendly with them, so Elliot wouldn't get the treatment, maybe, you know? You felt like there was a little bit of, I don't know, like
definitely
who is really better.
There was favoritism. I wouldn't use that as an excuse, because I think like you can still, you can outperform that. But for sure, like in where we grew up, there was a lot of that going on where it was like the people you know and like the friends, they would kind of all, and then when you're in that, then you just get more and more support and you just go farther. So versus mountain biking was like, I guess too, another thing to add would be like, as soon as I started mountain bike racing or like riding more, the community was so positive and friendly. Everyone was friends at the races, like versus in hockey, it was like kids were fighting in games. Like it was like you're going to war, you know? And I honestly didn't enjoy activating like that side of me to have to like play, versus mountain bike racing was just so fun. And then you're battling and you're like digging deep, but you're not like, I was like red hot with like anger after games, and I was like, okay, this is like not
getting out of hand.
So anyways.
Well, and you were a bit younger. You didn't really get into hockey, but we had 3 kids in hockey at one point, like Elliot playing and Jonas. It was a little hectic, and Nash was a baby, I think, around that time.
The time to get on the ice would have been insane. Like that would have been crazy to get all 3 kids on the ice.
While just running around, like with his schedule was pretty full on, and then just there was a lot of hockey. So
I still love it now. Like I love watching it as a fan, but and maybe one day I'll play like beer league or something, you know. But I'm definitely super happy that I kind of like directed my focus into something that like was more similar to maybe like who I am too, you know. So,
I definitely did the same thing, but with soccer, in the sense of like did a couple of years of soccer really young, but same thing. It's like I could see if I went and rode my bike and put in X amount of effort, it would equally translate to just me, and I didn't have to worry about the goalkeeper letting a goal in and then losing the game, no matter how many goals I scored or whatever, like, you know what I mean? Like
totally.
And then the hockey, I can't even imagine throwing in the fighting and that side of things, which is like pretty gnarly.
Definitely. And I think too, like even just with coaching, like I remember games where the team, maybe I would feel like I performed really well in the game, but the team as a whole wouldn't have performed. And there was games where we'd like fully just throw on our running shoes, fully dressed, and just like run laps around the rink like after the game, because our coach is just like angry at us and like I don't know, things.
You're proud of your effort.
And you're coming home, and I would just be like just bummed, and so it wasn't like building it in the most positive direction. So
and you think of like a sport like riding, like last night I said to you on the way home, we were out at BMX at the indoor track. And on the way home, I'm like, it's pretty rad. There's 60-year-old people there and like 3 or 4-year-olds all enjoying like an evening of BMX. Like some of the sports like hockey or soccer, you can do them when you're older, but it's not really the same. Whereas I think like surfing, you know, snowboarding, riding, you can kind of still have fun when you're older.
Totally.
And I think, not to talk like actual politics, but like politics in sport, I think hockey, as you're saying, like the whole clickiness with the parents and then the coaches, and like that's definitely not something that happens in mountain biking.
No, it's
not. There's some heated parents around mountain biking too.
They're kind
of coming over.
They're definitely coming over. Definitely in BMX. I've seen it in BMX a lot more, but and I wonder whether that's to do with like the Olympics starting and being involved in the Olympics a lot more. But
and I think any parent now, like you look at some of the hotbeds of mountain biking, like Squamish. Parents are just way more into outdoor stuff, and they want their kids to race, win, or just be more into it, you know? So I think not all, but there are some that are quite serious and you know,
Yeah.
putting extra effort in, whatever it is to.
Something that came up, and I wanted to actually ask you, so this is a perfect segue into this, but your whole personality, culture, vibe, whatever you want to call it, is so calm and relaxed, almost like that, like South Cali surf vibe, you know, like, and I know you've got like the V-dub bus and all the rest of it, which fits this whole like vibe that's going into it. But so many people that I reached out to and said, hey, like, the boys are coming on, everyone started the conversation with the Jamiesons are the family that I want to base my family on. And
That's
like,
cool thing.
That's super
so,
kind,
but
yeah.
like, tell me a bit about that. Like, where do your, I guess, morals or whatever you want to call it come into like the way you brought up the kids? And before you start, one story I want to tell, which Grizz is going to laugh when he listens to this, because he's told me this story 15 times, and I don't know which one of the kids it was, but one of the kids was doing something wrong, and it might have been Nash, to be honest.
Probably.
Because it was one of the younger kids. But anyway, Grizz tells a story and he impersonates you, and he's like, if my kid was doing what this kid was doing, I would have been blowing my stack. But the way JJ handled it was like, bro, you're kind of bumming me out right now. and Grizz is like, the reaction from the kid was like as if I'd literally just torn his head off. Like, so, like, tell me a bit about that. Like, where does that come from, do you think?
Well, I think when you have lots of kids, you realize, I don't know, I've learned it even more now as I'm older, but they're just kids trying to do their best, and they're all different. So you kind of got to just take that on and almost help them as much as you can, you know, and just kind of let them, whatever, just kind of roll with it, you know. It's not always that serious. Like, I think too many parents get wound up in it. And, you know, I think the other thing is just over managing your kids. Like, we have good examples of times where we just kind of go for it and try it, you know? Like, the kids were really little. Like, the cyclocross race, I'm like, throw them in there. They're only, like, the smallest kids there. But I'm like, give it a shot. You know, and a lot of parents are like, no, it's, you know, they're worried or something. They're a little too stressed. You just kind of run with it. And I think you always go with, I always thought about this a while ago, you really need to support them 100%, but do as little managing as possible. Like, I don't get involved in any of their deals with anything. I don't really tell them what to do. I don't even know sometimes what they're thinking or what they're doing. So I think you got to have that trust and like let them grow up. And, you know, like your guys' big road trip you did last year, my wife was a little bit worried. They were going to Tennessee, like driving across the US in the middle of like snowstorms. And, you know, for Nash, he's in like grade 10 and rolling out with a few older guys to go race like in Tennessee. And to me, that was one of your probably funnest times. And
Yeah.
you know, a lot of parents would be like either trying to overmanage it and make it stressful or say no, you know, but sometimes you just gotta like, and I think, yeah, you'd probably be able to explain that, but that was pretty fun for you guys to pull that off. And honestly, in the 3 weeks you were gone, I think I got one call and I was like, the first race Nash did, he qualified first out of like all the kids his age in the quali, right? Which is insane. Like, and I'm just getting a quick call like, Nash got first in the qualies. I'm like, holy crap, this is like USA, Tennessee, like,
This is like a big deal.
national race. Yeah,
but it just was kind of like, okay. And then we never heard from you guys for the next 3 weeks. Like,
Yeah, I kind of felt bad. I called you once and then that was it.
well, even in California when you guys were there in the winter, I'm like,
Actually,
didn't
that
hear
was-
anything. And I
yeah.
just kind of let them roll with it, you know? And I think that vibe is just,
Yeah.
it maybe sounds loose, but it's not really loose. Like, we're always there to support, but we're not there to manage.
Yeah. How does that feel for you boys? Like, I know, like, I feel like my dad and mom, like, still, like, very heavily involved in a lot of decisions I make. But in the same way you're talking, like, they let me make a decision and they let me do what I want to do and they support, but they also are there for advice. Like, do you guys feel the same way, I guess, in that sense?
Oh yeah. I'm always asking questions and asking for like, I don't know, guidance on like when I'm writing an email to like someone who's helping me out or just those kind of things. And same with Elliot, I feel like.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
I think you honestly explained it perfectly, Dad. I feel like you like support us with like things we're going through, but then also like let us maybe make mistakes or like figure it out along the way too, like without it being overbearing. But if we always know you're there, if we're like really stuck, or if we're like in a situation where like, okay, I don't know what to do, then we can go to him, and he has so much experience and just knowledge, and also approaches it just being, it's not based on like stress or like making us scared in any way. It's like, no, like, yeah, you're good. Like a lot of the time the problems really aren't that big, but he's just there to like listen and support, and I think too now I'm even more grateful because I feel like our relationship is like it's more like friendship based, which I think is so cool. Like that's, I guess, the evolution kind of like as a kid like myself gets older, and now we can just like, yeah, share ideas and go for rides together, and he's like my biggest role model, but also we're, friends too. 100%. But then we're also different, each of us, I think.
Yeah, totally.
Like Jim, Nash, and I all have different kind of nuances and like unique kind of bits about us that sometimes we don't like fully agree, and we'll have like interesting conversations with each other. So it's cool.
Yeah.
Well, I'm pretty loose. Like I don't check my tire pressure, those kind of things where I'm like when Elliot went to World Champs as a junior and got third, we brought his bike to a Norco meeting the day after, and one of the distributors looks at his tire and goes, "The knobs are completely gone. Like, did you race on that yesterday?" And it was like a tire you'd been running for like 6 months.
Yeah.
We're just like, oh yeah, that's a bad move. We probably shouldn't have had that old tire on your bike. But
totally,
things like that were a bit loose, right? And you can't run on that style. You need to be pretty organized. So
yeah, which I think is funny because I think, yeah, growing up, like as you said, Jim, I feel like I was not dialed in with that stuff at all. And it really was until I was on the Norco factory team where I like had to clean those sort of things up, like from like a professional athlete side of things. Like I think I had the fun, I had the skills, I had like the pieces to ride well, but then it was a lot then going into like a factory team setup. Versus I think now with like Nash and I think Nash I'm jealous of him because he can balance like maybe my dad's approach and then with my approach, and there's like a bit of like I can kind of bring some of the medium. Yeah, there's a happy medium where like some things I'll tell Nash about like that may be different than what like my dad would say, but
he's eating well, he's got his bike dialed in, you guys are like organized, like that's
bike's awesome. A little clap sometimes.
That's all our bikes.
But it almost reminds me, and I don't know if you guys follow the motocross or the supercross match with the Lawrence brothers. Like
100%. Yeah.
And it's always like Dazzy's always talking about if Jet was never better than Hunter, then we kind of failed in that sense of like, like obviously you're learning and almost experimenting with new things, and then Nash gets to learn off your experiments, I guess, in that sense.
Totally.
And that's what it almost like when you were talking, I'm like, that's exactly what they talk about. Like,
yeah. And the cool thing is with Nash and I is he's 8 years younger than me. So it's not like we've grown up like battling each other as rivals. No. It's honestly like such a cool relationship where like we're best friends now, but he's younger enough to me that, we've never, like, I'm so keen and happy to like share everything I've like learned because it's like, I want him to succeed as much or more than me. Do you know what I mean? So it's like, it's exactly what you said. It's like that perfect. But I think it's also even adds another level of like the gap in age is quite drastic but enough now, especially as Nash getting older, that like, we can go on road trips, we can race together, we can like share everything we're learning all the time and work together on that without it being like, say if Nash was like a year or two younger than me and we're like neck and neck, it'd be a bit more, there'd be more tension, I think.
Rivalry.
Well, even totally. Jonas, who's our other son, 19, he was not very competitive, but I remember signing you guys up for the Bear Mountain XC. You were already racing but you guys were pretty little, and there was two girls, Geza and Carter Woods' sister, racing, and they took off the same time as Nash, and you were like 7 or 6.
This isn't bad.
Way out there. Geza and Carter's sister, Sarah, I guess.
Yeah.
They came in and were like, where the hell's Nash and Jonas? Another half hour went by. But Jonas just wasn't competitive. He was just riding the track, and Nash was like right on his wheel, but you didn't know where to go probably otherwise.
Even if I passed him, I would have been gone somewhat, like
I know,
off track.
But it was just funny because you were very little. Jonas was quite little. But then I realized Jonas just didn't have that like angry edge. The girls took off and they were fighting for the win. Whereas Jonas took off and goes, "Oh, I'll just ride with Nash." It's just funny. His nature was different, right? So Nash was quite competitive even as a little guy,
Yeah, and I feel like even we were like, Nash and I were a lot more competitive than you too, Dad. Like I feel like even with racing, like, we would be a lot more hungry and like and like not like stressed about it, but like just like really driven to race versus I feel like you, Dad, always just ride like for the fun and like the essence of it more so, sometimes.
And I think that's a little bit the opposite of a lot of parents. You get a lot of parents that are super aggro and they put their kids in racing and go, "Oh, damn, my kid's not as competitive or doesn't have that intensity."
Want to drive,
And that's a hard one to balance for those parents. Sometimes they'll get a super competitive kid. But for me, it was kind of the opposite. The kids kind of have their own motivation. Like they're up early training, getting organized, or like putting the effort in,
Yeah.
Some people just don't have that.
It's funny you say that because I had Andrew Pinfold in just recently, and that was his biggest thing was because I said to him, like, what would you tell the kids, like, growing up? Because obviously he did quite well with his racing, and then James as well is doing quite well. And it's like, if the kids don't want to be there, then don't put them there. And, like,
100%.
That's what you're sort of saying in that sense.
100%. Yeah, you got to have the stoke.
Yeah. And I think that helped. I think it was so cool growing up because, and this is where like I leaned on you a lot, Dad, was like because he was at Norco, it was so easy for him to like borrow bikes for us to like just demo bikes or whatever to go ride. So I could one weekend do a downhill race, then I could borrow his enduro bike and go do an enduro, then do an XC, then in the winter do like cyclocross, BMX. Like that I think was such a cool asset where you were so willing to support us whatever cycling discipline or type we like wanted to do. It was just like about the love of like riding bikes, and I feel like I still have so much of that now because of that. Where like I love going for a road ride like just as much as going to do shuttles or like riding bike park or
I'd get in trouble for that because I'd give Elliot my bike and they'd be at races going, "Why is this kid riding a brand new revolver?" Like this was an old generation one with some new SRAM that hasn't even been released yet. Remember one time you took my bike back east and one of the bolts fell out. They're like, "We've never even seen this shifter yet," like the shop there.
Yeah,
and totally. I'm like, "Oh yeah, that's not so good."
Or like you'd bring home, I remember when the site was first coming in, right when the 29er site came.
And you borrowed it on Burke that day.
I borrowed one ride and I was like, this bike is so fast. I just took it from my dad. It was supposed to be his test bike and I took it and I raced it the whole rest of the summer and was loving it. And anyway, he never saw it again.
And he was supposed to be an XC kid at that time. And then it was Chris Mayo that had an old downhill bike downstairs. We built up at the last minute for you to race the national champs. And then that led to like a world champs third.
Yeah, wow.
And that wouldn't have happened if it wasn't for like just a bike in the warehouse that was kind of on loan for that sort of window of time, so.
That's another point that someone mentioned to me is what was it like and what is it like, I guess, one with all of the future you see, because I feel like in your role with Norco, you kind of 3, maybe 4 years in the future of a lot of items that you're seeing. Growing up around the dinner table, obviously you just mentioned then, like you're seeing stuff come across the dinner table that may not be known to the public. But then on the flip side, almost being like the unofficial test riders of Norco to some degree, like how was that growing up? Like you just mentioned a bunch of bikes that obviously weren't available publicly, but
even Elliot was in, like, if you search up old YouTube videos of early Norcos, you often had like a test bike that you were in a Norco video shoot, or even you.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's lots of bikes, but I think that just became normal. Our house always has random bikes around and probably wasn't out of the ordinary,
So what is some of the most random stuff that you've had on bikes that either have never made it past your own bike or something that has sort of changed the industry? Like I know talking with Pete Staysmith, he was one of his first bike, I shouldn't say one of his first bikes, he was one of the first people to run a telescopic seat post. And then that became like a big thing, and then obviously dropper posts and so on. But like, what is some of the stuff you've seen that's changed?
Well, that's quite a bit. I mean, since the early days. I mean, I laugh because Elliot, tried a bike once with I guess it had a front derailleur, and you're like, what is this? Like you'd never shifted a front derailleur.
Yeah.
But yeah, you look at since the early 90s, there's been a lot of development in bikes, and I guess it all just kind of blends in. Like there's so many things going on every day, like from what we're testing now. with, different idler placements or things that are really small, but to make little changes, to what's the next thing coming, or, my revolver has 9 batteries on it and it's not an e-bike.
Yeah.
So that's like, tire whiz, that's front and rear derailleur, or not front derailleur, but, crank for like the
power meter
suspension for the
flight attendant.
The flight attendant,
Yeah.
So things are just quite technical, but you just kind of roll with it. You don't really...
I remember like some specific things though. Like I remember when I was really into XC and you had the RS1, like the fully carbon inverted XC4. Like you were one of the first riders in, I think you got one from RockShox super early on and you brought it home and I was like, oh, this is insane, Wow. Things like that. Like there was a few specific.
And even borrowing
really cool.
the podium fork for the Squamish Enduro last year.
Yeah.
I was flexing next to Richie Rude there and he's like kind of, how'd you get that fork kind of thing? Because he was testing it. Remember that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's kind of
before
funny.
It was released too.
Yeah. And even I was at the Enduro in Idaho this year with Nash, and I could hear people in the lineup going, why does that guy have that fork? Like, because it was like a few weeks later, and I felt kind of like a squid, Anyway.
Yeah.
But it's funny too. They're like, anyway.
A lot of the time too, I'm not the most dialed on the tech side, so I would honestly have no clue what is on the bike. I'd just be riding it too.
It just feels good, looks good.
Yeah, that's exactly it.
So how about for yourself, Elliot? Like, obviously, being on the pro side of things, you've been with a few factory teams. Is there much testing that you're doing, and are you seeing some of this stuff change over? And then obviously, do you talk to JJ here and sort of say, hey, like, what do you think of this and what do you think of that? Like, are you seeing much of that at your point in your career yet?
Yeah, definitely. I feel like when I made the jump, kind of as we were talking, like when I made the jump from being, just like a junior racer to then having achieving a bronze medal at Worlds and then getting an opportunity to go on the Norco Factory downhill team, that was so new to me because I had never done any testing. I'd never even really set up a downhill bike before. I basically just was like, would just pump my suspension up and then just go race. And I think the sport's changed a lot from that now, especially at that age. But yeah, I think through the years I was with Norco on the downhill side, we did a lot of development where the downhill bike was going from the previous generation, like Orem HSP, into then we raced a few years on like a range kind of mule long travel downhill bike, which was kind of a bit of a Franken downhill bike. And then from that point, that was kind of when I switched into focusing more on enduro and did a year with Norco on the current generation range, racing that at all the World Cups, and then moved on to Commensal and, did some development and played with different bike setups they had there. And then now with Specialized, I think it's every season and every kind of, jump to a different bike, I've learned so much about what I maybe like or prefer, and then where I feel like, I can try to maximize strengths of the bike and then work on the weaknesses a little bit. So yeah.
Have you done much with like the data analysis side of things yet? Or
haven't. No, I would love to. I think a key with that is obviously working with someone that can read it and interpret it. And I think that would be overwhelming at the start for me to just like, throw on that and try to figure out insights to actually use. I think it's interesting. There's such a difference between setting your bike up for downhill and enduro too. Like, downhill, you're kind of pushing that like cutting edge of speed and grip, and then what you're obviously confident on and tracks and conditions. Whereas for enduro, I feel like you can set your bike up generally quite well, and as long as you're quite comfortable and confident and it's predictable, you can then translate that to speed kind of anywhere, I feel like so far. Obviously there's specific differences of like certain places in Europe versus North America are quite different, but it's two very different kind of battles I think was set up.
Yeah, no, I would have to agree. Like, I think exactly as you said, like downhill is 3 to 4 minutes of very, very specific, like this is the pinpoint we want to be at, versus, as you say, like enduro is such a broad range. You just need it to be the most consistent.
Totally, and comfortable. And I think that's honestly, like, going deeper than that, I feel like that's one of the reasons why I love enduro so much, is because it's a little bit more similar to the mountain biking that like everyone does. And like I think I love racing downhill and finding those like little gains on like a set track as it's developing. But I feel like over a day of enduro, you have so much more opportunity to like showcase every aspect of yourself as like a mountain bike rider, from like fitness to like nutrition, like managing your bike, and then obviously the setup and all the other aspects. There's so many things that go into the racecraft of it, that obviously downhill has a lot of that as well, but enduro, it's almost like more similar to what people normally do and, you know, experience. So
how do you find, and I don't know how much you've done World Cup downhill level in the sense of more currently, I'm guessing it's more enduro based, but how do you find like team setup and pit setup? Obviously working with ALN and the whole Common Cell team and obviously what you did with Norco and now moving forward into Specialized, how do you find that difference? Like obviously when you look at it online and you see the massive pits and the big race trucks in the downhill world, and then you see almost like the minivans in the enduro.
Yeah.
Like I feel like that almost fits the whole personality of the family, really.
Yeah, I think it definitely was. It was super overwhelming when I first signed with Norco and went into my second year junior off of a bronze medal. I think in my mind I was like, okay, with like a winter of training, I can be like a threat at every race. Like I expected myself to win when I was a second year junior in World Cup downhill. And looking back in hindsight now, like that was such a impatient, short-sighted like process. But I think tying back to that, like the entire just atmosphere of a World Cup downhill is so, yeah, it's high end. It's like there's so much going on. It's high pressure. There's so many big teams and big riders. And I think when I jumped into that as a second year junior, I was not ready at all for that. And in hindsight, I think I should have maybe, I really should have brought down like the pressure I put on myself. It wasn't the team or anyone else other than like me. Like I just had so much pressure on myself. And then after those few years of like having some good results in downhill on Norco and having a lot of like really challenging races, when I moved to doing the privateer setup for enduro in 2023, that was my last year of my contract on Norco, where I was actually contracted to stay on the downhill team. And I reached out and I was like, I talked to everyone at Norco and they were like, yeah, like if you'd like to do enduro, like we'll support you with, you know, XYZ and you can go to the races. And so the first couple of races were in Tasmania that year, and my aunt lives down there, our aunt, or Nash and I's aunt, and she had a spare minivan at her place, and I borrowed it for a couple weeks, and I just camped. I was doing school like the day before the races. I was just, you know, cooking, working on my bike, just by myself, like hanging out. And then I ended up having 2 top 20 races those first couple in Tassie, and I was like, oh, this is so cool. Like those were some of the best results at like a World Cup level event I'd had, and I was just like doing it so like, you know, just loving every day, like keeping things really chill and relaxed. And now I think I've bridged a little bit of both, of like having that chill, relaxed, like fun, like enjoying the process, like being really present kind of mindset, while also trying to bring in like the really high performance side of like all the bike setup, all the, you know, training and preparation and mental, you know, performance kind of work that I feel like I've done. And now I think I'm in a really good spot where like, yeah, with enduro, I feel like I'm now battling kind of at the top, but I think everything I'd learned would translate better back into downhill now if that was like something I pursued in the future again. And I wouldn't write that off. I think to me, like they're all just mountain bike racing, and I think any one of those, they all like, you know, benefit each other and help each other. So
yeah, definitely. Have you guys seen Elliot's like change? Like, is it in his personality externally? Like he just spoke about so much stuff there, and I'm just trying to break that down in my head. But like from a father, from a brother, like have you guys seen that change?
I mean, I guess I have. It's kind of hard to like, there's certain points kind of like where he went to live on the island and he was like full training for downhill, and I didn't talk too much. I didn't really ride with him ever. So it was more like intense, more like factory kind of style. He was just training straight downhill. I get to ride with him. And then there's kind of like the old XC days where I didn't ride at all really. So it's kind of like I was tuned out from that point. And then now it's like perfect mix of like just fun training, and then also like it's not like, it doesn't feel like training when we go ride. It's just like a good day out, spending time. But yeah, I've kind of, I don't know, have you? Changes?
Yeah, no, I think obviously he's gotten older and more mature and more competent in all ways of even managing himself as almost like a team manager. But also, keeping the Stoke still and knowing that it's still fun and there's still a good vibe there, that you're not in it for the wrong reasons, you know, you're in it for the big picture. You know, you get to go to cool places. Obviously you're racing, but when I went to watch you guys, it's a pretty cool vibe, the enduro scene. Like it's almost like if someone had a problem with their bike out there, other people come to you and help. Like that's not the way
each other and,
you'd see other sports. They just ride by and go, I'm going to win now. You're done. Like but it's like almost like you're on a mission, but you're kind of like working together. Huge days, like in insane weather and situations that you don't even see in the videos or what's actually going on. But to me, that's such a cool way to, I guess, race, but also just be out in the wilderness. And I think that's where you always just stop and go, damn, we're in a cool spot here. Like even just riding locally, or when you're in Europe somewhere in the crazy locations, it's just such a cool thing to be doing.
I feel like, not to like speak for you, Dad, but I feel like a few years ago when I was kind of like trying to decide between making that switch between downhill and enduro, I feel like there were definitely some like really hard, like we had some like hard conversations of like, for me, I think I was reflecting a lot on like, like my dad said, like, was I doing it for the right reasons? And I think for a little bit, I was pushing myself beyond the zone where I could like operate, not comfortably, because obviously you're racing, it's not like comfortable, but I wanted certain results that I like wasn't ready to like ride at that. And I had some really big crashes, like a few like concussions and injuries. And I remember at a certain point, like my dad and I were talking, and he was like, he was sad about it and emotional, and like we both were, but like this doesn't seem like a super like great kind of
it's almost
situation you're in. Yeah, it's like it wasn't a good point for me, and that's really when I was like, you know what, let's take a step back here and let's try a couple. That year I ended up trying a few enduros and like loved the scene of that, and it felt so refreshing compared to like what honestly everything I'd just built up in my own head about racing World Cup downhill. I put so much pressure on myself and built it up into this like such big thing that now in hindsight it's like it was all in my own head, you know. But at that point, taking that step to enduro and like with my dad supporting me, and Nash was still pretty young then, so it was before he was really like getting into, or like kind of the relationship we have now where like we're riding all the time and we're like best friends. He was still like kind of just watching and cheering me on. But yeah, I think that was kind of a pivotal like challenging point where it was like, yeah, but then I think overall it's obviously worked out in a really cool way where I have a lot better mindset in all ways around racing now. So
yeah, if you saw our family photo when he was younger, Nash was only like this tall and Elliot was already this tall. Like now all the kids are the same height. So
totally.
And I remember going to Europe, like watching you race, and it was more just like, it was so stressful, like watching you. Like you slid into the 60th position in qualies, and then you got a flat at one race. It was like, I didn't actually get to like watch him ride. I'd like see him go by and practice, and then we'd go down, eat some food, and then next thing you know, like a flat, and he rolls down on track with the flat.
Well, and I was mostly nervous about the Endura track because there was that crazy turn at the end, you know, where you have to launch off
that year. I think that was in 2022, was it, in Andorra? It was the first year they moved to the new track in Andorra.
Yeah.
And the finish was like a huge wooden like rubber mat with like a really sharp corner thing that you then had to like drop off of onto like a paved finish zone.
Didn't one of the juniors
Remy Meyer-Smith had a really bad crash on it. Yeah. And
like,
I remember,
when you ran over Amaury Pirion in that race.
Yeah, in practice I ran over Amaury. Sorry, Amaury.
I mean, it was just like it was just like
carnage,
40 degrees, and like just the track was just like so hot, and I don't know,
it's
just hard.
And I qualified last in 60th, and that was one of those top 60 quality. And it was I just snuck in the last position.
I remember too watching, like, this is when I was kind of following. This is the first year I started like really like tuning into the racing, which kind of sounds like not dialed, but I was like starting to pay attention to like that when he was at the races. And I remember watching like Ben Cather's like pink bike videos on the live, and I just saw like Elliot at Fort William have like a massive crash in the background, and I was like, I heard he like had a concussion and he like got blown off the top rock section, but I was like, seeing it, just sitting on the couch eating some food, like just enjoying the video. I was like, holy, like that's Elliot, like that's a hugie, that was a big one. I was like, this is like gnarly. I don't really hear anything good like happening with this racing. It was just like crash.
That was it got really hard, but I think too it's like you kind of, I really believe you, like you kind of get back what you're like kind of, you know what I mean, your approach. And I think my approach was I was kind of riding on like, it was more like desperation than like fun, you know. Like I had a spot on a factory team. I wanted to prove myself and like back up, you know, my junior kind of career where I was like a top 5 guy consistently. I was like, okay, now I'm in the elites. I started off my elite career in 2020 where the COVID year when we just went over for world champs, and I think I was just inside the top 30. So I was like, okay, that's like a great start to my like elite kind of downhill career. And then from there I had such a hard time like ever kind of continuing building that momentum, and it really was just my own kind of doing. So that's funny, that kind of got like reflected a little bit
Yeah.
on like, Nash watching it at home of me just
Yeah.
crashing, and just, it was more stress, you know, and I think it's so different now of how, like, I think we all approach it. And
The approach is different. Yeah. I remember
sure.
like to my first downhill race, I did my race run, crashed. I was like, I ran into Dad and like on the practice lap, like there were 2 lines and I like took him out on the rock slab and we both like, the bikes were just everywhere. And then I watched Elliot come down and he also had a massive crash at Nationals, like 2022. And I was like, geez, every race I go to, something happens with Elliot. And I'm like, this is bad.
We went to a race, remember, at Fernie, the first one, and you're like, I can't race this downhill bike. I need to ride the trail bike. And everyone's like, no. And he's like, I need to ride the site.
Yeah.
So you race the site, and we're just like, what's this kid thinking? But it was anyway.
Yeah. No, that was squid, but
normally a parent would get mad, but I'm like, Nash, do whatever you got to do.
If that's what you feel like you need to do, make it happen.
Yeah.
So let's talk a bit about the future for yourself, Nash.
Yeah.
You obviously did a bunch with Common Soul in the past couple of years.
Yeah.
What's next for you?
Well, I mean, it's kind of hard because I'm still trying to kind of like in the process of, kind of planning it out. It's hard to like think of that, like the long term kind of. So I'm just kind of like chipping away at what's happening now. But this year I'm kind of riding for Specialized Canada with like the AGR racing team with like Ryder, Nolan Weiss, Hannah, and it's ran by Andy Pickard. So yeah, that's gonna be cool. And then I'm gonna keep like, I kind of raced more downhill last year. Like I spent the whole off season kind of just focusing on like this season's gonna be mostly downhill. I'm just gonna race a few enduros, and like I know the speed kind of translates and the training. So I was like, I still love enduro, but I like felt like the mental side of downhill challenged me way more than the mental side of enduro. So I was like, I feel like spending this, like it builds like insane, like it just helps your character kind of and like how you approach things outside of racing. So I was like, this is cool. And then it kind of like pretty intense season. Like I was supported by Common Soul Canada and just like lots of learning. Came out, spent the whole off season training, and then first race I was like, I knew I could do well at the Tennessee National, and I like just qualified first and then crashed, and it was just like it's a lot of learning. And I just felt like that's the last season. And then the season before I kind of just raced enduro on my dad's, like I just stole his bike at the Squamish Enduro. I like
literally stole it.
Yeah, like
mid race.
Yeah.
We rode Debeck's Hill.
Yeah.
And I got to the bottom, and I'd finished that Debeck's Hill. It was a rowdy stage.
Yeah.
It's like Riggs
I
and
kind of
Zan,
jumped
right?
in, yeah.
Dirty
and
Jane.
I was like,
Yeah.
okay, I'll start pedaling up. So I left, and I was way up past Quest heading for the whatever lap, and you phoned me and go,
Yeah.
blowing up back wheel, no chain, like flat tire.
Yeah.
So I'm like, well, do I leave him there or do I go back? So I went back, and we just switched bikes, and then you ended up doing the rest of the race, and I was like, at least I got in like 3 stages out of 5. But you kept going. I think you got second or third that year, didn't you?
Yeah. It was like went from the clapped out old site and then to like the new gold podium fork and stuff, like
With the
kind of
high
like
pivot site. So.
Yeah, like the brand new site, which that was kind of funny. But yeah, it kind of like it was more loose from the start. Like I just kind of followed what you guys were doing. I knew like other siblings didn't really race, so it was just so much fun. And then last season I kind of took it more serious to like train all winter kind of, and I had like a goal or a race I wanted to do well at, which it kind of like it got intense like for myself, not because of anybody else, just from myself. And then now this season I feel like it's more chill, and I'm just riding with Elliot for fun, kind of like doing both still, but I'm not like focusing too much on downhill or too much on enduro. So I feel like that's kind of works good for me.
So
like
what are some of the big things you feel like you've learned? Like you're still pretty young. Like how old are you now?
16.
Okay,
Yeah.
so you've still got a lot of learning and growing.
Yeah.
But over the past couple of years, what are some of the biggest things you've learnt to then like change? Because you just mentioned that like racing downhill has really changed and challenged you to then sort of make decisions in your, let's call it normal life, off the bike. What are some of those things that make you think that way?
Well, it's a lot. Like, I mean, just for me, like one of the big things was like I would just overthink and stress and think of all these different outcomes kind of like training and how I wanted like a certain race to go. And kind of one of the things I've learned is kind of just like anything could happen. You don't have to like, you can put like as much effort in as you can just work hard, but you can't really control everything. So just that's one of the biggest things. But
Yeah.
I've also kind of just like, I mean, from the start, I've just kind of done it like for fun. Like when I was, I don't know even how, like when old was I when I did like cyclocross races, and he kind of just threw me in.
You raced a lot of cross. You got national champ in cross.
But even before that though, I was like, I had like improper. I had to like adjust the age on my UCI license to
because he was too young to race, so they added a couple of years to his license to let him in for the first couple of years.
But then didn't way later you tried to register for a race and they're like, oh, we think Nash.
so
they
we
thought
had to
Nash was
fix it.
way older, so to actually put his real age back in, like 2 years younger.
So I mean that was just a bunch of fun. It was kind of stressful. I was just like, it would be hailing rain. It'd just be like a muddy field, and you'd just be like with all these old men. I'd be like, this is kind of weird, but it's fun, like just in the pain cave.
But the game changer for Nash was during COVID, there wasn't a lot going on, and Elliot's old team, or I guess you were never on charge, but part of the, I guess it was Team Squamish. There's a bunch of kids, and we were at a race, I think you were racing, and Tobin was there, and he asked Nash if he wanted to join the team, and I was like, I don't know about this. So we went to Squamish, and you did a big ride with those guys, and you liked it. And they took you under their wing. And I mean, you guys were doing like 40, 50K rides in the winter in bad weather. And I mean, that was a game changer for just your
character building.
Just Stoke. And like, I mean, you'd be in the middle of nowhere, and we'd be like, damn, we don't have any food. And a kid would be like, Nash, here's a bar, like, keep going.
Yeah.
And I still remember that day when it was like you were a year or two in, and we got to the top, and it was sleeting sideways, and we were frozen, and half of us were like, we're going home, like straight to the car. And they're like, does anyone want to go ride some more like fun trails? And Nash, like, you and like one other kid were like, yeah, we want to ride fun trails. I'm like, that's like heart that you'll have all your life to go out and just do adventures, because that was that like core, almost like I think Sharuk was like a military trainer or something at one point.
Mike Sharuk, who was leading those rides, is a legend. Who coached me when I was on the provincial XC team growing up, and he coached some of my good buddies to like insane results, like world championship podiums and
I think
World
Reese
Cup
Verner,
results.
like Carter Woods, he's
Holden
helped a lot.
Jones, like so many insane riders were under his wing, and then that was like one of Nash's first coaches was him, and like to have such a legend.
But I swear he just wanted to have fun with the kids. Like he was an older guy, like probably my age, but he was really involved and helped so much. But just those years were pretty fun, and when not a lot was going on, it allowed you to do big rides and just learn skills and have fun.
Yeah, it was like a mixture. You'd be out like so tired, and your hands would be like numb and stuff, but then you'd also be in this big crew of just like, it'd just be so fun. You just like descending, I don't know, like Meadow the Grizzly or something, and just
when every kid was on icons and recons and revolvers, there was no like normal tires, there was no like enduro bikes, it was all XC, but you're in Squamish riding like tech, so
in the snow and
skill
stuff.
building.
That's an insane way to like get into mountain biking, really,
Which like from the start, I feel like all I remember kind of was like from a young age was that like BMX, like kind of crashing or like crying or something, or like cyclocross. I wouldn't really complain too much, but it wasn't like I enjoyed it because I kept coming back, but it wasn't like I felt like this insane amount of like fun. It was like, it felt like a hard effort. And then when I started like riding with Charge, I started like see the joy in it, kind of. It would be like fitness, but also then you'd ride the trails and actually.
So there's a funny one when you guys were little, and remember we did the Mackenzie River Trail in Oregon?
Oh yeah.
And I was like, I've done this when I'm younger. It's a black diamond, but it's pretty easy. But it was like, it was called out as like 40K a downhill. But holy, like we had the whole family. I had like,
and it's like a ridge
Kira
line.
in the baby seat, Jonas, and everyone was like lost on this giant ride. And we ended up pulling out partway down. But that was like, you guys kind of went through that stress as a little kid on a
I have this
20
like,
inch.
I have this picture in my head still from that ride. It's like the whole family, and there's like, basically you looked, like this is an image in my head. You look to the left, and it's just like a
Scree
huge drop
into a
into
giant
like
river.
a lake or a river.
No, it was a giant river.
Like a running river. And I just remember like the trail was so slim, like so like small and
narrow and sketchy.
And you could fall and just like get so cooked.
I think our younger kids have some like stress disorder. Like Jonas, it was his birthday ride. And
anyway. Yeah, it was the kid who doesn't want to ride his birthday ride. But yeah, that was...
Wow.
Yeah, so it was kind of just a mixture of fun, but also kind of stressful. And I mean, just being in the pain cave, honestly, actually, kind of like started the joy, which is kind of funny to say, but
Yeah, no, there were a lot of years where we'd just be like, okay, kids, what are we doing today? Which kind of bike do you guys want to ride?
Yeah.
Cruisers, BMXs, mountain bikes, whatever, dirt jumpers.
Yeah.
Just try to pick the option, you know?
and not sticking to like one. I never really. It wasn't just BMX or just mountain biking. Like I didn't touch a mountain bike really.
Yeah.
I don't even know. It
You
took a
probably had
while.
one year.
Yeah.
You just didn't ride it as much.
No, yeah. More cyclocross and stuff. So yeah, that's kind of.
That's where it comes from.
Yeah.
Yeah, cyclocross is one of those weird sleeper sports that you don't realize how much skill you need to ride slick mud and weird sand and all that on a sketchy bike
Totally.
with like little tires and bad brakes.
And it's also like the funniest, most fun like culture and scene too. Like you go to a cyclocross race and like when I remember when we first started going, like I don't think you dad had even really been to many.
No,
like,
not at all.
But we ended up, I feel like I kind of got into it because it was like, okay, I can race XC in the summer and then like do it as cross training in the winter and go race. And then it ended up being so fun and everyone was just there like laughing. But then there was also like a crew of super fast hardcore guys who were so fit, so skilled. And yeah, it's just such a cool sport.
Well, that was probably the first time we thought you were going to make some money in the White Rock. There's like South Surrey Cyclocross, and Elliot's winning the race. All the locals are yelling and screaming, and then this old guy blows by him at the finish line, just played you the whole race.
Oh yeah, Nathan Killam. Yeah, he basically sat on my wheel, and we were racing in Elite. And it was our local one up at the Junkyard Dog, South Street Bike Park. And he basically sat on my wheel the entire race, and he just out sprinted me at the end. And I was like, oh, okay, like that's how I guess you win.
And
like,
that was your road race too. The kids played you.
Oh yeah,
road
and when I
race.
raced road racing growing up too, I went in as like just like an individual guy, and there was all these like young youth teams like Devo and Triple Shot, and they all kind of had their like crews of guys, and a lot of them I knew because I'd either raced a little bit of an XC or I knew they were like kind of the faster, fitter road kids, and it was so funny. Like I remember we were all in a peloton, and we'd probably I think it was like 5 laps, and it was like a 100K race or something, and I remember I didn't even realize, but two of the guys on one of the teams took off like 10K in, and I fully thought like everyone in the race was still together. So then I took off like halfway and launched, and I thought I was like winning the race, and a couple guys jumped on me, and we ended up like drafting each other, and they both ended up out sprinting me because they just like played me. But I didn't even realize like the 2 guys who had won and got second finished like 20 minutes before. just no regard
the tactics
to
that you had
any
no
tactics. Clue. Yeah. So anyway, but then like something like the time trial, I could like really go for it and hammer individually. But yeah, anyway, I feel like all those experiences and like funny little stories and things that happened like all have just helped like us love all the different bikes and then also race like so much better now, So yeah, kind of funny.
Yeah, it's pretty insane. Like I'm just sitting here listening to you guys all bench race at the end of the day, and it's like that's so fun. Like I'm just thinking about all the different things. Like I did the same thing. Like grew up like motocross and then a bit of downhill and then cross country, and same thing. Like jumped in the road side of things, and I did a bit of velodrome racing, and the roadies hated it because I did a lot of 4-cross BMX and then like motocross. You're pretty explosive with that. And same thing, like you get on the velodrome and they would all outsmart me until it'd get to the 200-meter sprint, and I'd just kick. And because I had the mountain bike kick, they couldn't keep up with it, and they would be so pissed. It was like so funny.
Yeah. And you don't like you're not conforming to their expectations of like what they'd think for you either. You're just like doing your thing and smashing it.
The funny thing with bikes is I've ridden a lot of kinds of bikes, but Nash is the only kid that's really ever velodrome rode. I guess you did one
a couple times,
there, right?
Yeah, but you're the only one who actually did it. Like
you did it quite a bit.
Yeah, that's like one of the only disciplines we haven't really done a ton of, but
yeah. I would say that's if it wasn't so unique, I would do it every day. It's probably my most favorite form of racing because like it's obviously so simple. There's no brakes, there's one gear, it's fixed. It's you're going in a circle, so there's no like it's just so much strategy. And then like if you think of like the last 2 laps of a crit race, it's pretty much that for 10 minutes straight, like
the whole time
is just like you're always just not trying to learn where everybody is, and then you start to learn who's going to do what, and then you need to pick a wheel and like you squash people out, and it's like it's so intense, but it's sick.
So you were kind of just learning the basics of that, getting into it.
No, I remember like pulling up, and one of my teammates like on trails, you kind of are in control of when you crash, like you hit a rock or something, you just fly into the woods. But like on the track, I remember pulling up and like my teammate, just like another kid kind of that was squirrely, like came down, hit her, and then they just all flew into a pile up, and I was like, geez, this is kind of gnarly. I think it's,
it's like BMX. You're all in a tight space trying to...
Yeah.
But
Pretty wild. So moving on, one last thing before we wrap this up. What do you sort of want to leave in the industry, JJ? Like, I know like you've done so much already with everything you're doing, and then like, what's the future for you? Like, we've just spoken about the boys and stuff like that. Like, what do you see as the future of the industry?
Future of the industry or future what I'm doing?
Bit of both, I guess.
Well, I think obviously the industry's been in a bit of a weird spot for a few years, and you know, there's so many things that have kind of hiccuped a bit because of COVID and just the mess the industry got in. So I hope that kind of level sets, and might take another year or two, but there is some signs of that. That's good. So I'm stoked on that. And I think obviously e-bikes are a huge part of cycling now, which is amazing to get more people on bikes. I also personally, I always try to play up the pedal side because I'm kind of I don't know, I just love pedaling, and I think that to me is the sport, you know. But I do think that it's healthy to have more people riding and adding to it. And I think, you know, for a pro like say Elliot, you can use an e-bike as a tool, which is amazing, or for someone who wants assistance, I guess. But I'm kind of a holdout, and I hope that, you know, things like enduro level set and those kind of bikes, and there's kind of a good future there. And, you know, but yeah, otherwise, I mean, there's always innovations still coming. Maybe it's you know, leveled a little bit, but you see lots of cool stuff. Even gravel, like, you know, it's kind of still probably growing, and who knows what's next. There's always lots of stuff kind of coming, and I think that's why I like listening to these guys, because every night we're chatting about bikes, and I try to, as an older guy at Norco, I try to bring the youth in. And I actually remember my boss when I first started at Norco, he'd be listening to me, and I was 21, 23, and I'd be like, why is he listening to me? Like, he's been in the industry forever. But now I'm like listening more and trying to say, hey, the young people are speaking here, like whether it's a color, a style of bike, or just what's happening with videos. Or, I mean, you guys are the best critics of what's cool or not cool. And I like that because I'm close to it. You know, whether I'm at a race or just hanging out with you guys at the trails or whatever, it's just cool to be almost like hanging out with young people. And it's funny, like I'll ride with people my age and I'll be like, oh, geez, I'm actually not that slow. But I ride with these guys and I'm like, they're just gone. Like, so it's kind of a good balance too, to see, you know, I don't know, where we go ride. And like I went to some trails in Bellingham with Nash on the weekend, and I swear they're the steepest trails I've ever ridden. And he's just like, and I'm like, holy crap. Like, as a rider who's ridden forever, like, I'm like, damn, kids are pushing the envelope, you know? So that's cool to be part of that. And yeah, I don't know. I mean, who knows? I don't really have any plan to retire at any point yet, but I don't know. See how it goes, I guess.
Yeah.
Still just feel like a kid. Like, I really feel like I never had a real job. I said that to Trish today because we were talking about Kira with dance, our youngest daughter. And I go, when you go to work at whatever, 8 a.m, and then it feels like you never look at your watch, that your day is going to end. And you're like, damn, I just wish it was like the end of the day. If you've gone 37 years and not really felt that in your job, that's probably a good sign, I guess.
Yeah.
And you go home and either, like, I love old bikes. I'm either working on bikes, watching shows on bikes, or hanging out at or riding bikes. So, and it never gets boring. That's a good sign, I guess.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Totally.
Yeah. I'm talking too much now.
Oh, that's rad. That's rad.
Is there anything you two boys want to throw in there before we wrap it up?
No, I think maybe just, yeah, I feel like just so grateful to have our dad, you know, because I feel like without him and without his like stoke and enthusiasm, we wouldn't have the same experience that we have with riding bikes, and we would have never been, you know, I'm speaking for Nash and myself, I feel like, yeah, we just wouldn't have been exposed to such a cool, as we were talking about, like, sport that we can do for our whole life. And that's like one of, I think, my personal like biggest goals is, you know, obviously being a racer now and trying to achieve my goals with racing is my priority, but then also I want to ride bikes for my whole life, you know, all different bikes, and that's way more important to me than like any sort of different achievements. It's just like loving that for my entire life. So yeah, just say thanks to our dad for
Yeah.
for getting us stoked.
Wow.
Yeah.
Keeping us stoked every day.
Yeah, I think that's good. I mean, you don't want to get too uptight or stressed or make it not fun, because then you don't want to get up in the morning and go do it. You know, you need to be able to have that enthusiasm to be fired up. Like, and that's the thing. I'm never like, hey, you should be training today or you should be doing this. I just,
Yeah.
they have enough motivation that they're so fired up that that's such a cool way to see that, you know. So I just, like I say, help out with that and keep it fun.
Yeah.
And you guys take it serious.
Yeah. Well, I feel like if you want to reach your goals in racing, you gotta kind of have that stressful moments. But if you're not having fun, I don't know. There's not really any point in doing it.
Well,
Yeah,
and even like
totally.
Nash, I mean, we went to Port Angeles. You had the craziest crash in qualifying, and you were like, man, I don't even know if I can ride tomorrow. And I'm like, geez. And then the next day, you like won your class and another, like beat the kids, almost all the older kids. And I'm like, you know, that's your own like mental space, you know, that you're in there. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
I don't know. Pretty amazing though. Like when I see this stuff, I'm like, holy. But even we always laugh because we're from White Rock, and not many people who ride mountain bikes are from White Rock. So
Yeah.
it's,
Yeah, it's
kinda
pretty flat
like-
over there.
Yeah, totally.
But it's actually, you know, the more you think about it, we're right in the middle of a lot of directions you can find amazing trails. So you get a lot of variety too, which is kind of cool. But yeah, we live in a spot where we're kind of not known to be in a mountain bike scene.
Yeah.
Totally.
But yeah.
Yeah.
What else you got to say?
No, I mean, I don't know. I'll just keep riding as long as it's fun, and then I'm sure you will too. And I'll just follow you.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Rad.
Sick. Yeah. Well, thanks for coming in and spending the afternoon. And yeah,
Oh,
pretty
that's
good.
cool.
Appreciate
well,
it.
thank
Thanks so
you.
much, Jared.
Yeah,
cheers.
that's rad. First time with this custom setup, so it's pretty cool.
I'm feeling like
Yeah.
a squid just hitting things.
Yeah, it's all good. It's all good.
Sweet.
Cheers.
Yeah, thanks.